Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and today I'm going to be doing my RWBY Volume 5, Chapter 6, Episode 6 review. So, a lot of good things came out of this episode. We finally got this whole conversation about Raven and Liang's big secret or whatever, or somewhat of it. I don't really know if we got the real full-on secret, but it was a good episode nonetheless. Episode starts off with Crow. He's looking for someone. He's just looking through this phone of contacts, trying to look for information to figure out what is what, and eventually gets to this point where he asks his bartender information about him, and the bartender just turns it completely, and he has a knife, and he's like, oh, he's your friend, you tell him that he owes me money, next time he sees him. And then he's just kind of, Crow's like, oh, okay, and he just leaves, and then he starts asking other people, no avail. Eventually gets to this abandoned house, and he's like, look, I've been having a bad day, do you know this person? And he sees the daughter there, and he's like, oh, so he just ends up leaving without any information. So he has like no one left that knows anything about this person that he's looking for. So this is what so that's what's kind of going on with Crow here. Meanwhile, while this is going on, Yang, Weiss, and Raven, they're sitting down. The Spring Maiden, or at least the person who I think is the Spring Maiden, is pouring the coffee or the tea, whatever you want to call that, down. She eventually leaves the room, while Raven, is telling her, some of the, stuff that's going on. And he's either like, well, what's the big secret? And he talks about Osmond and, what, that he has a big secret, and, that, him being a prodigy was just how he made it. She talks about him and Crow, or her and Crow entered, as huntresses to find out how to defeat huntresses. A lot of different stuff she talks about. About him, and then they talk about, how Team Stark, as they call themselves, was just basically, trying to, be one of them, because Osmond wants teams that are basically loyal to just him, basically, I guess. And when she found out the truth, she would not allow this, I guess. So that was kind of the thing, though, about them, is that they really, she just didn't want to be a part of that. So I guess is what she's saying. And she just couldn't ignore it anymore. And so what ultimately ended up happening is, they're basically like, well, what's the big secret about this, whole thing that Osmond is talking about? What's this big secret? They just want to know what it is. So then they come up to this whole standstill of this moment of Raven basically laying out, which the way she said it was really the thing that caught my attention. She said, and I quote, "The creatures of Grimm have a master named Salem. She can't be stopped. She can't be reasoned with. And she will not rest until humanity crumbles at her feet." That's what she said. That's what she said. And when I heard that, the first thing that came to my mind, and I'm going to keep zeroing in this right now because when I first did, that was the whole thing of this whole episode that I'm going to remember the most about this episode is when she said that. The first thing that came to my mind when Raven said that was the Terminator. That was a Terminator reference. That was a Kyle Reese Terminator 1 reference. It's very similar to the way Kyle Reese says about the Terminators, how they can't be bargained with, they can't be reasoned with, they don't feel remorse or fear or pity, and they absolutely will not stop until you are dead. It is very similar. The way it's structured is very similar to, the way it's worded is very similar to the Terminator quote. And I was very surprised about that. I was like, oh, they're doing a little Terminator reference here. Like, that was really good, and it was kind of happy because I knew it right away. I don't know if anyone else caught it, but I caught it right away, you know, as a huge Terminator fan and all. I caught it. I caught that almost immediately when they said it. I was like, that's Terminator right there. So yeah. You know, after that, you know, kind of Raven takes a shot at Yang's uncle and then takes a shot at the father, Yang's father. And Yang's just all pissed now. Her eyes turns red. She's ready to, like, fight. And then the person who we think is the Spring Maiden just, like, you better stop right now. She's got, like, her semblance ready or whatever. So, and then Weiss says, just calm down. And then he's like, Raven's just like, you should listen to your friend there. And so Raven, you know, then goes outside to show her semblance, I guess, and they're outside. They go outside, you know, because the Spring Maiden says, "Well, go outside and find out." And she goes outside, and she isn't there. And there's this Raven flying around, and she transforms back into herself, so she can transform into ravens too. Also, I should also mention too, when they had their conversation, they did also mention how magic exists, as well as people coming back from the dead exist. They also mentioned this too during their conversation, which is, I know, going to bring up a lot of theoretical theories about possibly Pura coming back, because that does confirm that people can come back to life, because they just said that it is. Now, of course, people don't believe this, but obviously that's what they want you. But Raven knows that it's true, that they can come back to life. So I'm sure a lot of people that think Pura might come back to life now are probably going to support this theory now that Raven has just basically confirmed that people can come back to life. So this is going to be very interesting going forward now. I'm sure a lot of people are already thinking about theories about this. So after Raven transforms back in from an actual raven, yes, Raven can transform into a raven bird. Kind of cliche if you ask me, but so yeah, after this she basically, you know, puts a cut through the you know, the air or whatever, you know, and you have that red portal thing or whatever, you know, that basically can teleport you to wherever you want. So Raven basically says the portal's there. Go, you know, if you know, want to go see, you know, Crow, you know, freaking go over there, you know, or you could stay with me, you know, and I'll answer more questions for you. I was kind of curious about this incident of, what Yang would have said if she agreed to join with Raven. What would have happened with Weiss, since she never really mentioned anything with Weiss. But she basically doesn't really say no to Raven. What she says is that all she cares about is saving her sister, or making sure her sister's okay. So she never really actually says no or yes to this, but, I guess Raven takes this instance as a no, because, she, goes into the portal anyways. She takes her Bumblebee motorcycle with Weiss and goes in the portal. Right before she goes into the portal, Raven basically tells Yang, next time, I won't be, as kind if you do decide to join up with Crow or whatever. And, Yang's just basically like, you weren't nice right now. And as she's leaving, and like when she leaves into the portal, Raven was like, I know. So yeah, there was a lot of interesting stuff. I also should mention too that also Crow, while this was going on, Crow did go back to the bar from where he was in the first episode, and does end up paying off what the person owes that he's looking for, too, as well. He basically says, you got some serious stones coming back in here after that, and he's like, what he owes you, and he basically gives him like a card or something, or whatever, to pay off his debt, I guess. And so that was the end of that scene, by the way. I just wanted to kind of mention that was in there as well. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff to go on. A lot of information that Yang, or was revealed to Yang and Weiss, about, what Raven was stating. Raven also claimed that RWBY, as well as everyone else, pretty much knows the truth, or knows, everything about what happened. It's interesting because this episode, to me, more or less kind of tells me that Raven isn't necessarily a villain, but she isn't necessarily good either. So, Raven, as this season's been going along, is starting to really, to me, seem more like an anti-hero, more than anything, as the season goes on, because obviously she's not a part of Salem's gang, but at the same time, she's not a part of Osmond's gang. She's kind of just like in the middle here. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I'm sure we're not going to see the last of Raven, though, especially since everyone knows that the Spring Maiden is with Raven. So I think there's going to be some, more interaction towards them, for the remainder of the next 6 episodes of the series. Or not of the series, of the season. But we'll see how that goes. So the red portal comes out right where Crow is. And the first thing Crow says is like, Raven? And and then you hear him like, oh, like, because it's not Raven. Shang and Weiss. So Crow takes Yang and Weiss to where RWBY and everyone else is at. While this is going on, RWBY and Ren are basically making some food or whatever. RWBY's not really doing a good job at it. But she's still trying to do what she can. Eventually, Crow tells her to get over here or whatever. And then she's like, okay, fine, Ren, you take over. And so she goes over there, and, then she sees Yang and Weiss right there. And Yang gives, or Ruby just drops her tea or coffee or whatever and food, and then she, because she was preparing for everyone that was there, and that was going to be there, or more people that were going to be there, and then Yang gives Ruby a hug, a big hug, and then after that Weiss gets a hug with all three. She comes in, Yang tells her to come in, and so all three of them get a hug, and that's where basically the episode ends. It was a very good, solid episode, a lot of information, a lot of stuff probably that I'm sure a lot of people didn't think was possible is now possible. Apparently people can come back to life in the RWBY universe. So we will see where this transpires, if this is going to transpire to possibly Pura coming back, because I know a lot of people want Pura to come back, and I'm sure a lot of people that do still believe Pura is somehow alive are going to probably use this as like, oh, well, she can come back now, or something like that, or some like other stuff like that. We'll see where this goes, but that does confirm that yes, people can come back to life in the RWBY universe. Where this will lead to, I have no idea in terms of who actually will come back to life. Yeah, I was very surprised to hear that. But obviously the biggest thing of this episode was the Terminator reference that they used in this in this episode. We'll see what goes on, because we still really don't know that much about the Spring Maiden, which really surprises me. I thought they were going to really talk more about her in this episode as well, but they didn't. So we'll have to see what goes on. Next episode, I'm sure Yang's going to be talking to Crow or something like that. About the truth, because, Raven's been very assistant about it, and we'll see where it goes exactly with Yang, and where this whole character traits will go. Obviously 3 of the RWBY team is back together. Blake is still in other worlds right now, in the I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if I've said this before, I don't know if Blake will meet up by the end of the season, because it seems like she's preoccupied with what's going on with the White Fang, which is completely different from what Weiss, Yang, and RWBY are interested in at this point. Well, Yang, not so much yet, but I'm sure she will now that she's back with RWBY. They want to get the Spring Maiden, so they might be going after, Raven very soon, to find the Spring Maiden. But, we'll see what happens. But also, we haven't heard that much about Salem, what their plans are, now, because they know what's going on. And they know that Raven has the Spring Maiden. So I think there's going to be a battle. I think there's going to be a battle with Salem against Raven, and then there's going to be also a battle with the the RWBY Ranger gang. They're going to all be like after. Well, I guess it's not completely RWBY yet without Blake, but you guys know what I mean. Going after Raven, and the Spring Maiden. Nothing really in this episode about Blake, but I'm sure in the coming episodes we'll get more about it, whether it be next episode or it will be the episode after that. But overall, I thought this was a good episode. Let me know what you guys think about this episode. Where do you think this will go? Comment, rate. If you like this video or my other videos, please subscribe. I have all my previous reviews in the description, or in the playlist. I'll put the description playlist link in the description. That's all I gotta say. I'm out of here. I'm the SS Ultimate Goku. If you like my videos too, by the way, please give me a like, because it really does help. Comment, rate, And if you like this video, please subscribe. And that's about it, guys. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace.